You are now watching
Mr. Reedling.
Hey everyone, welcome back. In this video I'm going to give you 50 tips for becoming a good My Singing Monsters player. So there will be tips for all kinds of players, beginners to advanced, so I think that every person watching can find at least something that is useful for them. So make sure that you watch to the end so that you can hear all of the tips. Alright, so let's get into the video. The first tip is to always feed your monsters. Now this is quite straightforward, but it is very important because I struggled a lot with this in the beginning. Feed your monsters when you have food, and it's even more important that you always bake. Baking should be your first priority to use your currency on, because that's the fastest way to increase your gold income in My Singing Monsters. So moving forward, we get into tip number 2, and this is to have quad farms. This is very important for beginners, because getting quads is the most efficient way at increasing your gold income for the least cost, because getting quads is very easy, so it's the best way to level up your income so that you can purchase the other items in the game. Tip 3 is to get rares for breeding. By simply breeding your common monsters with their rare counterparts, you get a 100% chance of another common counterpart, which is very useful if you're trying to fill up like wobblins or stuff. Tip number 4. Baking is the best choice for XP gain. Now there are 3 main ways of XP farming, which is buying decorations, buying woboxes, or baking. And I would actually recommend baking above all else, even though buying woboxes gives you a better XP per coin invested ratio, because when you bake you actually get something back, food. Tip 5 is to never spend your diamonds speeding stuff up. Always buy investments with diamonds, like mini mines, increased bonus structures, and all that kind of stuff, mirror islands. Alright, so this relates to the last tip, and I just need to emphasize the importance of getting mini mines, because they are the best investment that is possible in the game. You earn back your diamonds from the mini mines in just 10 days. And after that you can use these things for as long as possible. Tip number 7 is to get a Wobbling Island farm. For beginners I would recommend just having a bunch of brumps on your island, produce a bunch of shards and diamonds, which are going to be useful in the early game. For advanced players though, I would recommend a Timpa farm, but never get a Timpa farm unless you already have a Brump farm, because otherwise it's a waste of time. 8 is to level up your tribe monster with shards. Never use any of the other available currencies. This is the only currency which is worth it on Tribal Island, and the rewards aren't really that great either, so always wait with feeding your monster until you have a sufficient shard income. Tip number 9 is to wait for sales. Most of the things in the game are available at a discount during a sale, so always reconsider before buying very expensive stuff if there is a possible sale that could be occurring at some time soon. Tip number 10 relates to the last one, and that is to understand the importance of the anniversary sales. And so these take place in September each year. After that point you get a month and a half of sales, which include pretty much anything in the game. So always save currency for the September anniversary sales. Tip 11 is to get rid of your excess eggs using Wobblins, Celestials, or Amber Island monsters. The good thing with these types of monsters is that you cannot only power them up, but you can also dispose of unwanted eggs by just tapping them into their inventories. And so this is good whenever you have an egg in the incubator, which is obstructing you from breeding new monsters. So tip 12 is to get the bonus structures as well as upgrade them. And I won't elaborate too much on this, because you actually need to pay real money for these kinds of things. But I would really recommend it if you have the possibility of paying money in the game. So tip 13 is to decorate your islands. This is going to make the game so much more interesting, and you're really boring if you don't decorate your islands. Like, go on and do that. I actually have an entire video on this if you're interested, so yeah, always do decorating. So one thing which I see very often is people who get farms tend to sell all their regular monsters that you need to breed with. And what happens when you do this is that you get a very inflexible situation where you can't breed for Wobblins, Celestials, etc. And so I would never recommend this. Always keep a single copy of each monster that you need to breed with. So tip 15 is to buy relics every day, and the amount of relics you buy should vary based on your diamond income, but I would recommend a range of 1 to 3 relics per day, and this will ensure that you get a stable income of relics before having any monsters on Amber Island. So tip 16 is to save your keys. Now, keys used to be a useless currency that you could only buy the dipsters with, but now it's very valuable actually because of Wobbling Island, Celestial Island, Amber Island, etc. So always save your keys. Never buy the dipsters when they're not on sale. Never buy the dipsters when they don't cost 1 key each. Tip 17 is to never buy monsters with diamonds. It's just too expensive. Only YouTubers can do this. It's even cheaper to speed up breedings for getting the same monster. It's not worth it unless it's Epic Wobox, which I will get into. So tip 18 is to leave the game on the island where you want your torches lit. And now this is quite an interesting tip, but essentially the island that you log out of is also going to be the island where people who visit your islands end up on. In turn, this implies that that's also going to be the island where you get statistically the most torches lit and also the most likes. So tip 19 is for all advanced players. Focus on Amber Island. If you don't already have an Amber Island farm, go ahead and get it now, because this is the most useful thing you can do if you're an advanced player. When you have a great relic income, you can in turn buy Wordos and even make a Wordo farm, and this is completely overpowered in terms of coin production. So tip 20 relates to the last one, and I'm going to elaborate a little bit about Wordo farms, because the Wordos are the monsters which has the best coin to bed and area ratio possible in the game. So they're completely overpowered. The problem is that they are very expensive, but if you get a relic farm, you're going to be able to purchase them pretty cheap, like once every 3 days. I can almost guarantee that you haven't heard of this, because I kind of came up with it myself, and that is to stockpile flags on Amber Island by using failed evolution attempts. And this might be a bit confusing, but essentially what you want to do is you want to spend Amber on deliberate failed evolution attempts using the minimum amount of Amber in order to stockpile flags, which you can then use for the more expensive epic evolutions. Moving forward, we have tip 22, which is to always buy the Mirror Islands. This is why I tell you not to waste your diamonds, because the Mirror Islands are really expensive, but it's definitely worth getting them. Because on these islands you have the possibility for like coin farms, but you can also use them for pretty much doubling your speed at which you can fill Wobblins, Celestials, Amber Island monsters, and I don't think enough players try to get the Mirror Islands. Tip number 23. Don't feed your bad monsters. This might be a bit unclear, but essentially you do not want to waste your food on monsters which aren't going to be producing a lot of coins for you. This is primarily the dipsters, because they are useless in every way, but it also concerns the ethereals. They are way too expensive to waste your food on in the early game. Tip 24. Lower your volume on irritating monsters. This is very important because nobody wants to hear your dipsters and your Wordos. I don't want to hear your Gobblegord. Shut the f*** up. Alright, we move on now. Here we have a very specific tip. do not breed your quads with the natural 2-element monsters on the magical islands. And the reason for this is that if you do this, there's like a 75% chance that you get another quad instead of the 2-element monster, which I assume is the monster you want. So just have this in mind. You're just trying to get a Drumpler, but instead you get this ugly flute bag thing. So I know I mentioned like rares and stuff, but I want to elaborate a bit because it's very important for triple elemental monsters, because if you breed them with a quad, there's a chance that you're going to get an ethereal, and you're not going to want that. So make sure you always have one of each triple elemental monster on each island so that you can breed your T-Roxes, etc. without any disturbance. Tip 27. Rare and epic monsters produce more coins. So I would recommend that you just get rares and epics to replace your common ones, because that is better for the coin production, especially for like quad farms and also for Ethereal Island. Tip 28. Always look up the breeding combinations beforehand. Never try to figure these things out yourself. You can just search on the wiki and it takes like 5 seconds, so remember to always do that. 29 is to get an ethereal early, and this is quite important because you want to have a shard income as early as possible. Try to get like a ghast and send it to Ethereal Island early. The Book of Monsters collection is synced between regular and mirror islands. So if you breed on the mirror islands, your collection will be updated on the regular islands. So I really recommend that you utilize this in order to complete your Book of Monsters collections much faster. Tip 31 is about bonus rewards. When you feed your monsters to a level above level 15, they get a chance of producing a bonus award. Now, the neat thing about this is that there's actually a cap to the amount of bonus awards you can get. So by simply leveling a single island of monsters up to like level 18, you're going to be able to get the maximum amount of bonus rewards.
32, use my referral code and get 5 free diamonds.
Tip 33, get this tree of joy thing, or what it's called. I don't know, Unity tree I think. Yeah, you're going to get this thing because it ensures that no matter where you place your decoration, your monsters are going to get the increased happiness. So yeah, this is a must buy because happiness produces more coins for you. So tip 34 is that decorations which are stored in the storage will contribute to your monster's happiness as long as you have the Unity tree. And this is really overpowered because it means that you don't even need to have your decorations out on your island. You can just put them in a storage. All your monsters are going to become 100% happy. Tip 35 is to always have some of every currency left over just in case that some type of sale or event goes on. So tip 36 is to always buy Celestials when they are on sale. Now I didn't do this because I was stupid, but Celestials are so expensive. By just waiting a little bit, you can halve the price. Here we have tip 37, and this might even upset you. If you're an experienced player, it's genuinely worth it, and also because of adult Celestials, it's even more worth it now. So I would actually recommend that you get 5 of everyone, and that will take a lot of time, but it will actually be worth it if you buy them during their sales. Tip 38, multiple monsters of the same type are going to raise the volume of that monster in relation to the rest of the song. So if you want one monster to be dominant, remember to get multiple copies of that monster. Tip 40, here we have a very interesting one, because I told you that you should never ever buy monsters with diamonds. But here is the one exception, and that is for epic Woboxes. Getting the epic Woboxes with diamonds, which you earn from your mini mines, etc., is actually much easier than filling them up, because it's just so hard to get all of the epic monsters on an island. So I would really recommend this. Tip 41 is that higher leveled monsters will increase the breeding chances. So that's another reason why it's very important that you feed your monsters. If they are higher level, it's going to be much easier for you to advance by getting the harder to get monsters. Tip 42 is that it's actually better to teleport your rare or epic seasonals from your regular islands than trying to breed them on seasonal shanty, because the breedings on that island just take so much time. So I would recommend actually getting them on their native islands and teleporting them instead. Tip 43, you can always sap from alternative islands which you don't really think about as sapping islands. I'm talking about Sugar Bush Islands and the Magical Islands especially, which makes it much easier to fill your Wobblins, Celestials or Amber Island monsters. Tip 44, always and only bake the big salads. You don't have any reason to not only bake the big salads, because the big salads is the most superior form of food. Always get the big salads. Tip 45 is to always level up your monsters to an even level. When you're leveling your monsters up to very high levels, you don't get much return for the food that you invest. So always get all of your monsters to level 15, etc. before you try to go higher than that, because you're just wasting food at that point. Tip 46 is that single element ethereals are actually the best for shard production. Now this might be a bit weird, because you would think that double element ethereals are better, and especially if you get the rare and the epic counterparts, that's how you get an effective shard farm. Tip 47 is to make a Cana farm or a Vivienne farm, and I actually have a video on Cana farming if you're interested. But essentially, Vivienne is the best for farming on Amber Island because it has the highest relic production per bed. However, Viviennes are a bit complicated to get, so I would actually recommend a Cana farm above that. Tip 48 is to get friends. I know you don't have any friends, but seriously, try to get some in this game, because you get a lot of benefits from the torch lighting, the key giving, and it's just an instrumental aspect of the game that you need. Tip 49 is that you can change your profile name to get free friends. Put your friend code in your profile name. Other people who are visiting your random island are going to see it, they can write it down, and they can add you as a friend. This will give you free friends from nowhere. Tip 50, here's the last tip, and that is to place monsters for selling them. And this is quite useful in the early game for like quads, ethereals, and especially wooboxes. Never sell a woobox, although I don't get why you would, because you kinda need to buy them deliberately. Alright guys, those were the 50 tips that I had prepared for this video. I hope you found the video entertaining as well as useful. Please feel free to submit your own tips in the comments below. I think that would be pretty interesting to read. And yeah, thanks for watching. I'll see you guys next time.